The Xbox showcase this year was, without exaggeration, the best one we've had in years. Plenty of new first-party titles were revealed to the world to much fanfare, in addition to several stellar-looking indie games. There was something for everyone in this showcase, but for me, there were a few games in particular that really stood out. This list is in ascending order, going from the least to most interesting games that caught my attention. Thanks so much for clicking on today's video, everybody, and if you enjoy it, consider sharing, leaving a like, and comment down below telling me what games excited you the most. If you're new to the channel and you like what you see, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you always know when a new video is live. With that out of the way, let's talk about my personal highlights of the 2023 Xbox Showcase. Starting with number 7 on the list, we have Still Wakes the Deep, a survival horror game coming from the Chinese Room, the same developers who gave us Dear Esther, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and more pertinent to this particular topic, Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs. It's a team with experience primarily in narrative and exploration, with their work on Amnesia being of particular note, since Still Wakes the Deep appears to follow in the footsteps of that popular horror series. As far as the game itself is concerned, we honestly don't know much about it at this point beyond the fact that it will be survival horror focused, which is the main reason why, even though I'm excited to check it out when it eventually releases, it is at the bottom of my list since the trailer didn't elaborate on gameplay or story. We did, however, learn some more information about the game after the show from a brief synopsis released by the developers. In Still Wakes the Deep, you are an offshore oil rig worker, fighting for his life through a vicious storm, perilous surroundings, and the dark, freezing North Sea waters. All lines of communication have been severed, all exits are gone. All that remains is to face the unknowable horror that's come aboard. Search for your crew and help them survive if you can. Run, climb, and swim through the flooding corridors and storm-lashed outer decks. Face a terrifying, unrelenting foe, and pray that one day you get to see your family again. I can't believe no one has thought of doing a survival horror game where you're trapped on an oil rig, thousands of miles out in the middle of the ocean. Being in the middle of nowhere on a rickety oil platform is scary enough, but when you're stuck on one apparently fending off some sort of creature, count me in. Horror scenarios where the main protagonist is fighting for their life in a highly enclosed and claustrophobic place, like a space station for example, are usually the most terrifying applications of horror, at least in my opinion. If the Chinese Room can nail a compelling narrative premise and spine-tingling tension while exploring the oil platform, then Still Wakes the Deep should be a wholly unique and worthwhile addition to the survival horror genre when it launches sometime in spring 2024, day 1 on Xbox Game Pass. Next up at number 6 is Star Wars Outlaws, one of 2 projects releasing from Ubisoft Massive, who previously helmed The Division and its sequel. Experience the first ever open-world Star Wars game set between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Explore distinct planets across the galaxy, both iconic and new. Risk it all as Kay Vess, an emerging scoundrel seeking freedom and the means to start a new life, along with her companion, Nyx. Fight, steal, and outwit your way through the galaxy's crime syndicates as you join the galaxy's most wanted. So first of all, I love that Massive are exploring the scoundrel and smuggler angle of the Star Wars universe, diving deep into the seedy underworld of the Star Wars galaxy and showing us corners of this universe that we don't get to see very often. The CGI trailer released during the Xbox showcase gave us a brief glimpse at the characters and overall tone, but afterwards Ubisoft released a full 10-minute gameplay gameplay walkthrough where we actually got to see the game in action. There's a healthy mix of stealth, environmental traversal, on foot, as well as vehicular combat, and some even cooler mechanics like faction reputation that can be either gained or damaged depending on who you decide to pick a fight with, choices and consequences during cutscenes that can affect your gameplay experience, and even a Grand Theft Auto-inspired wanted system. As a Star Wars fan, this game at first glance appears to be checking off all of the right boxes for me. Kay Vess seems like an interesting protagonist, filling in as an almost Han Solo-esque archetype. The visual and artistic design of the world we see in the demo screams Star Wars, especially in the local town's cantina and the designs of the characters themselves. The audio design is pitch perfect to what we've heard in the films and TV shows, and the soundtrack evokes those same emotions that John Williams' original score still continues to do. Now, even though we saw some awesome gameplay in that demo, my only hesitation, and the main reason why Outlaws is lower on my personal list, is Ubisoft's involvement. Ubisoft's entire portfolio of IP, including Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and the Tom Clancy games, have become severely stagnated and homogenized over recent years, to the point where you can hardly even distinguish a modern Assassin's Creed title from Far Cry and other franchises in their catalog. They all share identical game design and mechanics, with the only true changes being made on a surface level, such as the setting and art design. This causes many like myself to groan anytime we see the Ubisoft logo attached to an upcoming game, no matter how cool it looks. I'm cautiously optimistic about Outlaws being able to set itself apart from the generic open world designs of previous Ubisoft games, and Massive have gained a reputation for being one of their more noteworthy internal development teams, so fingers crossed that Outlaws can continue the recent trend of great Star Wars games when it releases sometime next year. At number 5 is Towerborne, the next game from Stoic, the development team behind one of the most beloved indie franchises in recent years, the Banner Saga trilogy. Where the Banner Saga was more focused on narrative and RPG-driven choice and consequence, Towerborne appears to draw more influence from something like Castle Crashers, in that it is a 2.5D side-scrolling action-adventure featuring up to 4-player co-op. Here's some of the synopsis found on the game's official website. Towerborne is a hope-filled action-adventure with gorgeous art, varied environments, and intense combat. You play as an ace, a warrior born anew from the spirit realm, with the mission to protect the Belfry, fighting an evil force that looms beyond the walls of our last safe haven. There are 3 main areas in Towerborne: the Belfry, the world map, and the levels you fight your way through. Each has unique features for you to explore. Towerborne is built with player choice in mind. You can play cooperatively or by yourself, with the ability to change the difficulty at any time. Players will also be able to fully customize their aces and find weapons and armor that fit their playstyle. Each weapon set has unique special moves, so test them all to see what you like. The gameplay that was shown in the announcement trailer looks flashy and, more importantly, fun. Visually, Towerborne gives me a lot of Studio Ghibli vibes, with a striking amount of saturation and color. Not really much else to say about the game at this point, to be honest. It just looks like a really solid side-scrolling action game, but we'll find out for ourselves when Towerborne launches sometime next year. Avowed is next in the number 4 slot on my list. Now, I will tell you all, in the spirit of full transparency, that I've never really been a fan of Obsidian Entertainment or their particular style of role-playing game. It's not because I think their games are bad. I know they're really good, and their reputation precedes them. There's just been an unknown X factor that has kept me from playing them, or when I have played them in the past, kept me from fully enjoying them. I'm really hoping that Avowed will be the first game to really turn me on to Obsidian and the hallmarks of their RPGs, namely a heavy emphasis on choice and consequence within the narrative, tightly designed but not overly complex areas to explore, and interesting and unique companions to accompany you on your journey. Based on the gameplay trailer that was shown during the Xbox showcase, I'm starting to think this will go down as an instant classic within the RPG genre. genre. Combat looks like it has the appropriate amount of weightiness and feedback, whether you're using a physical weapon or one of the many incredible-looking magic spells. The visuals do set a different tone than what was seen in the original announcement trailer for the game, and the graphics don't look like they're of the highest quality in terms of resolution and detail, but when has that ever mattered historically for an Obsidian RPG? Avowed really does look like a fantasy version of the Outer Worlds in many ways, and while some may think that's a bad thing, I'd argue that this is simply the natural progression of Obsidian mastering their game design framework and philosophy, and I have no doubts at this point that Avowed won't be a fantastic addition to their long list of RPG classics. Avowed launches next year, and it'll be a day one release for Xbox Game Pass. It's about time we got a first look at what the newest Fable title will look like, and Playground Games did not disappoint in this regard. Playground are a studio that have, up to this point, had experience exclusively in developing racing games, namely the Forza Horizon franchise. I'm very curious to see how they'll transition from racing to role-playing, but at the very least, based on the short trailer we saw during the showcase, I can confidently say they've already nailed the tone and cheeky Monty Python-esque humor of the Fable franchise here in this reboot. Fable is a series that is near and dear to me as I grew up on that original trilogy of games back in the day alongside my brother. I have fond memories of exploring Albion, fighting bandits and terrible beasts like the Balverines, which I'm pretty sure we got a brief glimpse of in the trailer, and making tough decisions while grappling with moral dilemmas. Fable is a franchise that has been a part of my life for so long that it had to be this high up on the list at number 3. The brief snippets of combat we see in the trailer show how far we've come since Fable 3, and the game was easily one of the most graphically impressive titles at the showcase this year, alongside the likes of Hellblade 2. The closure of Lionhead Studios several years ago was and continues to be a massive blow, but hopefully this new Fable will bring some much needed life and newfound appreciation to the series, while also making those former Lionhead developers proud. We'll find out for ourselves when the game releases next year. You might be a bit surprised by my top 2 picks on this list, and rightfully so. However, my explanation for why they are in these spots will hopefully allow you to understand my perspective. Coming in at number 2, we have South of Midnight, a brand new IP, and the very first Xbox exclusive from the team at Compulsion Games, the same studio behind Contrast and We Happy Few. Compulsion are a studio that I historically have not paid much attention to be brutally honest. Contrast and We Happy Few never really spoke to me, but South of Midnight caught my attention immediately with a strange art and animation style that evoked films like Coraline or The Nightmare Before Christmas, an oddly compelling mixture of stop motion and CGI blended together to make something oddly unique and macabre. The reveal trailer didn't give away much, but we know that the game takes place in the deep American South, with the swamps and bayous that you would expect to see in places like Louisiana, for example. The trailer builds a sense of mystery around this fantastical take on the Deep South, but the actual synopsis and details about the game revealed after the showcase excite me even more. From the creators of Contrast and We Happy Few, South of Midnight is a spellbinding third-person action-adventure game set in the American Deep South. As Hazel, you will explore the mythos and encounter creatures of Southern folklore in a macabre and fantastical world. When disaster strikes her hometown, Hazel is called to become a weaver, a magical mender of broken bonds and spirits. Imbued with these new abilities, Hazel will confront and subdue dangerous creatures, untangle the webs of her own family's shared past, and, if she's lucky, find her way to a place that feels like home. The idea that you'll be hunting cryptids and creatures from Southern American folklore using magical abilities sounds pretty damn cool, right? Well, I think it does, and coupled with this darkly exaggerated and almost gothic visual style, along with Compulsion's prior experience, I think we're in for something truly special when South of Midnight comes out next year, also day one on Xbox Game Pass. To round it all out, my number one personal highlight from the Xbox showcase was undoubtedly the reveal of Clockwork Revolution from In Exile, the team behind the popular Wasteland Wasteland series. This is the game that hit all the right notes for me personally. A captivating steampunk setting and artistic vision? Check. FPS RPG? Check. Heavy emphasis on choice, consequence, world reactivity, and player agency? Check. Time travel? Triple check. Clockwork Revolution looks utterly incredible. How else can I really describe it? I've been a sucker for steampunk design and aesthetics ever since playing the original Dishonored, and I've always been a fan of time travel, both as a narrative element and more importantly as a gameplay device. That trailer had literally everything, man, and if after hearing this brief synopsis of the game you aren't excited, I honestly don't know what to say. Clockwork Revolution is a time-bending, steampunk, first-person RPG. After stumbling across an incredible invention that allows you to travel into the past, you discover the city you call home, the vibrant, steam-powered metropolis of Avalon, has been carefully crafted through the alteration of historical events. By traveling back to key moments, your interactions and choices will have a butterfly effect on the deep, narrative-driven world and characters of Avalon, causing them to change and react in unprecedented ways. This is the next evolution of the A Crack in the Slab mission design from Dishonored 2 in my eyes, where even the smallest decisions you make after traveling back in time to the past can have immeasurable domino effects on the future. We're talking about a potentially insane amount of replayability here in regards to how time travel will affect your timeline when you jump back and forth between past and present. Hopefully the moment-to-moment first-person gunplay can stand up to the task of matching the incredibly ambitious RPG design that has been laid out here. And if the game feels as good to play as it looks and sounds, this could be a potential Game of the Year contender for sure. Depending, of course, on whenever the game actually releases, because Clockwork Revolution also held the distinct and rather unfortunate privilege of being the only game to not even receive a release window, so we still have literally no idea when it will come out, but the more time they take, the better the final product will be. In any case, these were my 7 personal highlights from the Xbox showcase this year, but now more importantly, I want to know what your highlights from the showcase this year were. Were you intrigued by the new first-party IPs like Clockwork Revolution or South of Midnight? Were you more excited about the indie titles releasing like Towerborne? Or even ones I didn't mention like 33 Immortals? Was the Xbox showcase underwhelming in your opinion? Leave a comment down below and let's get a discussion started. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and share the video with others who may be interested. Consider subscribing to the channel for more variety gaming content to come in the future, and be sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And remember that the outsider walks among us. Thanks again, everyone.